Hey Rebels, my name is Matthew Barton. Welcome to the Rebellion Brewing Podcast. Justin Shepard and his family are growing hops in southeast Saskatchewan, and you can find his hops in local beers all over our province. The last few years of Rebellion wet hop beers have featured Justin's hops and turned me into a lover of the peach-packed Comet hop varietal. I can't wait to tell you all about what Justin's doing this year. So let's get into it. Justin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. Thanks for coming out and visiting us today.
I want to set the scene for my audience because this isn't just a regular, we're sitting in the office or on a Zoom call. We're at JGL Shepherd Farms, sitting in the middle of hops.
Absolutely. We just had a fantastic dinner. We had a great setup in between Chinook and Cascade. So we're surrounded by some great smelling hops. Everything's green. Everything is very lush. There's no wind. We're in sort of a microclimate. It's a pretty great night out here.
I can only imagine what it would be like for like a wedding. You got these nice string lights up above us, creating this little ambiance and glow. The wind is not bad. Like, it's just a totally different environment.
Yeah, it's a really nice night. It's very pretty out. To be honest, it's one of the first times we've ever had a meal inside of the hop rows like this. So you and your colleagues at Rebellion are really experiencing a first out here tonight.
I love that we get to be your guinea pigs, but also the first to do something new.
Yeah, as guinea pigs, it's hard to look around and say, how are we going to do this better next time? It seems pretty nice.
This was awesome. I want to extend my thanks on behalf of Rebellion for the amazing hospitality your crew has shown us.
Yeah, we love that you all want to come out. We love that everyone in Rebellion's interested. There's partners, colleagues. It's really fun for us to host people who want to come learn and just have a fun time.
I guess I should tell the audience what we're doing out here is all the Rebellion crew is here. And I've been saying all year long, this is one of my favorite things to do, is to come out to the hop farm. But I tell them, you want to come see it. You want to see how it's grown. You want to touch it. You want to smell it. You want to be in it. Because you'll understand why we're so passionate about beer.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're really excited with how the crop has come along this year. Everything is really vibrant. It's green. We've had an up and down growing season to this point, but I would say we're peaking right at the right moment.
Well, let's back up a bit. How old is JGL Shepherd Farms now?
Yeah, so we started in 2017 growing hops. Prior to that, our family farm has been on this land since the 1940s. So it is a third generation. We have a fourth generation who comes out and helps once in a while as well. So we've been here for a long time. Hops are still a relatively new venture, both for us as well as Western Canada and especially Saskatchewan. But we've learned a lot. We really appreciate growing and working with brewers because ultimately we can do our best agronomically and making sure the plants look healthy and growing a great crop. But it's really up to the brewer to tell us, hey, we like this, we don't like that. How can we do a better job of making sure our product goes into making really terrific beer?
One of the common themes that I've been kind of encountering through the barley farmers, through everybody from last year, the lentil guys, was drought. Hot heat, really, really dry, rough weather for growing. What happened to you last year and what's happening this year?
Yeah, tale of two worlds for sure. Last year we experienced that drought. We do have irrigation and that mitigates some of that impact. But when it's mid-30s, when the plants are flowering, ultimately it did hurt yields last year. I think quality was still very good, but yields were harmed. This year, total opposite. We've had, from May into June, we had 6 weeks of rain. We had just about 25 inches of rain here, which is about 2 years of rain for us in a 6-week period. So that was a big challenge. But thankfully, since the start of July, it's been hot, it's been sunny, it's been relatively little wind for Saskatchewan. We're always going to have some. But overall, it's been a fantastic close to the season and brought the plants along. We're going to end up being 3 to 7 days later than last year just because of how kind of slow the start was. but really the finish is coming in quick and it looks fantastic.
I remember last year you were saying when the hops turn, when they're ready, you can't just sit back. You got to run full speed. So how close are we from today to JGL Shepherd going full speed?
I think by the weekend, so right now we're on a Monday, so we're 5 days away from getting sort of that test day in where we'll have a bit smaller variety as far as acreage, and it gives us a day to dial in the machines and make sure everything's working really good. So I'm hoping this weekend we have one of those days, and then after that, next week, it should be full throttle for us, and we really no days off till it's over at that point. Most of the varieties, I would say, are on their normal track. Certain varieties mature early, some mature late, and for the most part, they look like they're falling to schedule. And we are very excited to get rolling next week.
One of the things you pointed out to me, and I noticed it right away, was you said the foliage looks different this year. What the hell happened?
That's a great question. If I knew, I would be a genius. This year, we seem to have more cones than we have leaf matter. Last year, I would say we had more leaf matter than cone. That's very noticeable when you walk in the yard this year. You can see the slightly lighter green of the cones, and they really show up and pop. So there's a lot of cones in the yard. I hope that means that there's some pretty good yields coming on. So that's my hope, but I don't want to be too optimistic, but I'm pretty excited.
I look at the vines, right? The vines, they're hanging, but it looks like they're sagging with some weight. You know, it's not just a big bushy forest of leaves. It's like a real thing. You can see the product.
Yeah, the plants this year are heavy. They look really nice. Different varieties have responded differently. Variety like Chinook this year loved the heat, loved the water. It looks fantastic. Some of the more delicate or more European style hops have definitely, they're a bit more challenged with the early season rain. So some of the varieties look a bit tougher, but overall, on average, I think we're thrilled that we've gotten to this point and that they look how they do.
This morning, Mark and I were talking about this, how we're coming to the hop farm, we're going to do the podcast, but what he was saying was he was most excited to get some cones in his hands, crush them, smell them, really kind of figure out what we're going to do for some wet hopped beers this year. What did you think when you saw Mark run into the fields and grab cones?
Yeah, I was excited to see Mark. It's fun to see brewers excited about our product, and I agreed with what Mark chose. I think he had a very good nose, and he identified some really nice flavors, and I think the hops that he's chosen for homegrown will play really well together.
Well, that's great segue to what I wanted to get into next. Was we're going to do a special beer featuring 100% Sass barley and 100% Sask hops, JGL Shepherd hops, and it's called Homegrown. Did Mark tell you much about it yet?
Yeah, like I've learned a little bit about it. I'm super excited that our hops get to play in that. He just chose he would love to use some Centennial and Chinook hops. Both of those are kind of classic American hops. They're very different in how they act, but paired together, I think they're going to be really nice, and especially to see us paired with Saskatchewan barley, and really that's what makes us so happy doing this, is that we're a part of a team that gets to choose how to mix those ingredients, and it's a lot of fun to see our hops mixed with Saskatchewan by Saskatchewan hands. It's fun.
One of the things I wanted to tell you is it's going to be a wet hopped hazy IPA, similar to the Solo Crush from last year, but closer to our hazy IPA. It's going to have those big, bold hop flavors and aromas. And like you said, we're picking 2 hop varieties. And when I explain to people why we do that, it's so we can do different things and get different complex pieces. Sometimes when you use just one hop, you notice this one note of flavor or one aroma. And when you're drinking a full 20 ounces, you can kind of get bored. Your tongue kind of gets tired, your nose gets tired. But when you have those 2 different varieties playing together, there's a real nice marriage. And one of the things I noticed you say today was you're talking about flavors the way the brewers talk about it. You're talking about aromas. Like, you really internalize that. How did you get there?
Yeah, I'm super fortunate that I get to work with brewers, and really it's that knowledge piece. I was a pretty poor home brewer when I started out as a hop farmer, and that definitely did not prepare me for what I needed to know about aromas and how they play off each other and how they complement. And sometimes hops don't complement each other, and the opposite happens. But I've definitely learned a lot from people like Mark and Vanessa and Zal. It's terrific to learn from really bright people, and we bring slightly different skills and thought processes. I'm thinking of how do I grow this plant and agronomically, and then how does it turn out quality wise. Definitely then comes into play with the brewer, and I get to learn from some really incredible people.
So when you're trying to achieve these things, you're trying to thread the needle. When you said all that moisture came through, immediately in my dumb ape brain, I think, oh, that means disease. So then you've got to get rid of that water?
Yeah, we definitely have had some disease challenges this year. It's very different. When you have a drought, there was really no disease pressure at all. But if you do have disease pressure, it tends to mean you probably have lusher growth. You probably mean you have more leaf canopy that can develop. But so we look after it. We definitely really focus on having a good agronomic program to reduce disease. Hops are very susceptible. The goal is it doesn't matter how the plant really handles the season, it needs to be there in September with a lot of cones that have the ability to pack on aromas. So we follow a really sound program. We work with some great people in Saskatchewan as well as across North America because there is limited sort of knowledge locally. So I think we've grown and we've definitely expanded our knowledge on how to best look for the hops. And every year is unique. Every year we adapt, we change, we mess up. We're not perfect, but we definitely have learned a lot, and my whole family has a different eye for how they view it, and we've definitely grown. So I'm really excited for how we've gotten through this year.
Well, one of the things I noticed was in the past you've told me about the irrigation. You've got special irrigation running underneath the field so you can get the nutrients to the right place in the plant at the right time. You're figuring out, you're sciencing the hell out of this, and that's what kind of tickles my brain and makes me really excited to kind of celebrate your embrace of technology to move quicker and faster.
Yeah, absolutely. We love technology here. I definitely do. I think it's fantastic as far as we don't have generational knowledge. My dad did not grow hops. My grandpa did not grow hops. So where does that knowledge come from? It normally comes from making mistakes. And it normally means we do something and we realize, hey, we probably need to do that a bit better. Next year, let's do it different. And with certain technology, it allows you to make that mistake and in the next week fix it. Maybe you're not putting enough water on. Next week, go out and fix it. This spring, when it was really wet, we obviously had some disease challenges. Make sure we have the right chemical, make sure we can go in, spray, look after that. Because ultimately, we want healthy plants that are able to produce cones, and we do have to manage for that.
I love that you can pivot on a week.
We certainly try. We do tissue tests in season, so we take multiple samples from the leaves and we send those off to a lab. And from those lab results, we can see what nutrition is in the leaves. And as soon as we see that data, then we can be in the field the next day spraying or putting it through the irrigation and rectifying that nutrient imbalance. So it is a really quick turnaround as long as we embrace that, acknowledge what we don't have. It's maybe we missed something earlier in the season. Maybe it was technically a failure earlier, but we have the ability to rectify those problems really fast.
That's really cool because I don't think the average consumer even knows what hops are. But when you talk to fans of the podcast, you talk to fans of Rebellion, they want to know exactly what hops are in their beer, where they came from. And I wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of share some of those insights about the challenges you face and what it takes to make such an excellent product so people can appreciate, I'm maybe paying a little bit of a premium price, but I'm getting something that is really special, not something that was half-ass.
Yeah, we love that ability to do that. We are excited to produce high-quality hops because really high-quality hops are one thing, but really great tasting beer is even better. So that's why we do it. Like, we're excited to enjoy some nice Rebellion beer tonight and have a good time. Like, really, we can make great hops, but it takes really good brewers to make sure they stay really good.
One of my favorite moments from last year was when we did our Solo Crush Comet. And we drank it for the very first time. I'm sitting there with Mark. I'm sitting there with everybody. And they're all kind of hemming and hawing about, oh, what's it going to taste like? What's it going to be? And I said, oh, can't you get that fuzzy peach? Can't you get that peach aroma? And Mark's looking at me, and he's like, what? And then I was like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. But that's what I got. A couple days later, he comes back and he goes, I went back and I drank it again. And he goes, you nailed it. Like, all those flavors, all those aromas. And I'm like, maybe I'm not such a dummy. Maybe I can figure this out. And I kind of put my stake in the ground and said, Comet are my jam.
Yeah, they're a really cool hop, and it shows you've put in your 10,000 hours of, I don't know if it's smelling or drinking beer, but it's congratulations.
Well, I wanted to say thank you to you.
Oh, it's us.
Because it's you guys who are making the Comet that I love.
Yeah, it's a super neat hop. It's a really lime green leaf, and it looks funny in the field from pictures, but it produces big cones, and you're right, it has some really vibrant flavors. There's certain hops that have that kind of wow factor, and Comet is one of those hops that can be on its own. It gives, it alone is enough. It sometimes, you can pair it with hops and make it, maybe even ramp it up, but I think Comet on its own is pretty cool.
If it hadn't been for you, I would never know about it, and I never would have been able to fall in love with Comet.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. Like, I think it's a really great hop, and I can't wait to see where else it goes.
So what is, I get to brag about Comet and all that stuff, but what's your plan for 22-23? What's coming up?
Yeah, so we're excited to get through harvest and do up some wet hops, do some dry whole cone, and then do some pelleting. So this will be our second year pelleting our own hops, which is exciting. And again, another learning curve, learning how to make sure we're doing a good job. Each variety pellets slightly different. So again, another learning curve to deal with. And through the winter, it's really moving these hops to different brewers and finding homes for them all. And then starting to think for 2023, is there some hops that are in our yard that maybe aren't performing well? Maybe it's agronomically for us. Maybe the yields aren't there. And then maybe there's some hops that the aromas aren't perhaps necessarily very interesting. So we look at that every year. We're always wanting to make sure we're doing our best and we're providing our best. So every year is, well, what hops are maybe on the chopping block, and should we keep them? Should we not? Should we give them another year? And at some point, you do have to cut some losers from the yard. I wouldn't call them a loser, but maybe they're not quite as good as the others.
They're getting voted off the island.
They are getting voted off. Not everyone can stay.
So let's circle back to something that you said that I kind of twigged on, pelletizing. So at Rebellion, we chiefly use whole cone hops because we believe that handling them, pelletizing them, it gives maybe a bit of a sharper edge or a bite to the hop. We like that nuance. But I also know tons of other brewers prefer pellets for different reasons. There's trade-offs for doing things each way. Pellets are easier maybe to handle. You can get, they shelf life is a little bit longer. So you're not wrestling with storage if you're not as picky as us. If you're not as insane as us about that, maybe you're trying to achieve something different. Tell me about, what did you do before you could pelletize them?
Yeah, so we've had them pelletized for 5 years. We used another grower in the prairies, which was fantastic, but we've finally grown to the size where we feel we can do that ourselves. And again, it just brings that quality in-house. We just want to make sure that we're watching it from spring to fall, and then processing as well. We can monitor temperatures and really just make sure that we're doing the best job possible. And it also means we can work with brewers if they prefer certain ways. Maybe there's a variety that's going to a certain brewer and they want the pellet density, or we can actually make those adjustments and brew it, or not, we won't brew it, but we can pellet it to that brewer's specification. So we can make those changes, and it gives us that ability to be really specialized, because as a small grower, I think we work really well. We work hand in hand with the brewers, and we're really close. We're partners. We're making sure that we're both succeeding, and it's making sure each of us is getting what we need.
I don't know that this is true. I'm just going to throw 9 Mile under the bus and say 9 Mile calls you up, says, Justin, we need a pellet from this variety at this spec. And you can turn around and say, yes, we can do that.
We can sure try. it may take us a moment to figure out exactly what it is, but we'll certainly do our best to get that density, and that's probably very specific. There's very few brewers are going to be asking for that, but ultimately as a specialty grower, that's how specific we want to be. If you come to us and ask a question, can you do this? We'll certainly try.
I love that you hit that same perspective as, say, a barley maltster who's small and craft. They're not necessarily going to be doing that base 2-row pushing out because they'd be going up against the big guys. But where they can hit is doing those custom spec on the fly kind of pieces where brewers are maybe looking for something a little bit harder to find, a little bit special, and they can provide that. And it creates that little small limited, maybe once in a lifetime brew. I think that's really special that you can do that too.
Yeah, it's something that we've really learned to embrace, that it's okay to have differences and to be different, both as like kind of as a farm. We are not a conventional farm. We don't look like any really around us, but that's okay. And we can embrace that and we have fun with it. Like, we get looked at a little bit strange maybe that, oh, they're doing things a bit weird, but we really enjoy it, and it brings us pride. It brings us a sense of accomplishment when we actually accomplish that.
You guys, you remind me of Rebellion. We say we want to be different. We want to stand out. And there's this thing called the purple cow, where you drive past a field of cows and they're brown, they're black and white, maybe got some spots. But then you go out there and you see that one purple cow and everybody turns their head and goes, hey, did you see that purple cow? What you just described to me made me feel like you got a little bit of Rebellion DNA in what you're doing.
Yeah, I think so. I think we fit that ethos of, like, we're not super stressed if people think we're a bit nutty.
Well, I know the most exciting beers that I had last year were those wet hop JGL Shepherd hops in that Comet. Like that, oh man, that beer was so good.
Well, you didn't fight hard enough, I guess, because this year we're going away and using slightly different hops. So you'll have to, maybe next year Comet returns the rotation.
Dope! So I guess, final question, what's next?
Harvest. The literal answer is next week we're going to harvest, and that's exciting, and we're gearing up for that. So I think as a short-term answer and a short thinking answer is harvest is next.
So we got to tell our audience, stay tuned for Homegrown, just featuring your hops, 100% JGL Shepherd hops, 100% Sass barley. What other brewers are coming out and picking up your hops this year? Who else can they drink this year that's going to be featuring your hops?
Yeah, we have some terrific people throughout Saskatchewan, where if you're in Regina, you can go to Rebellion, you can go to Pile of Bones. I don't want to like short change anyone. There's lots of brewers who are trying our product. We're still trying to make converts of a few others, but ultimately showing the best advertisement for our beer or for our hops is a well-brewed beer, because ultimately a consumer, and especially other brewers, are going to taste that, and they're going to have a sample and say, you know what, like, the hops didn't wreck this beer. Maybe they even helped it. So that's our goal.
People come into the tap room all the time and they're like, are these Saskatchewan hops? Is this Saskatchewan barley? And when I can tell them yes, you just see the smile on their face when they know that it's something that's from Saskatchewan. And it makes me feel so proud. And I'm thankful that you and your family have joined us on this like insane journey of like chasing this down.
Yeah, thank you so much. We love having people out here. We love showing off what we're doing. Really, you sharing our information, talking to us. It's really appreciated, and we love being part of the Saskatchewan beer industry.
Cheers.
Cheers, Matthew.
Rebels, thanks for your time today. If you have any questions or comments about this episode, be sure to join us on our brand new Facebook group page, The Rebellion Brewing Podcast. I'm going to include links to all things JGL Shepherd Farm online. Check it out. It's awesome. They got tons of beautiful photos. Check out their social media. It's really great. I'm also proud to let you know that we're members of the Saskatchewan Podcast Network. It's a one-stop shop for tons of locally produced shows from across our province. You can find them at saskpodcastnetwork.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Untappd so you don't miss out on the latest in Sask craft beer news. Thank you for joining the Rebellion.